you took issue with comments from Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. She reportedly said, quote, "We don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice." About that, you said, "These are the words of the modern grand wizards of the modern KKK." You know, I'm sure the KKK was responsible for more than a century's worth of horrific lynchings, rapes, murders of Black people. How in any way are the views you're talking about comparable to the views and atrocities committed by the KKK?
What I said is the grand wizards of the KKK would be proud of what they would hear her say, because there's nothing more racist than saying that your skin color predicts something about the content of your viewpoints.
You didn't just say they would be proud. You said these are the words of the modern grand wizards of the modern KKK.
It is the same spirit. You're right about that, Dana. I think it is the same spirit to say that I can look at you and based on just your skin color, that I know something about the content of your character, that I know something about the content of the viewpoints you're allowed to express. For Ayanna Pressley to tell me that because of my skin color, I can't express my views, that is wrong. It is divisive. It is driving hate in this country. This is dividing our country to a breaking point.
That is a debate that is based on nonviolent discussion. That you just said you're using rhetoric, which she said she's using rhetoric. That's one thing. And another thing is to say that she represents and she is a modern version of a KKK, which, as you know, was dedicated to the subjugation and violence against Black people. How on earth is she a modern grand wizard of that kind of organization?
Let's be intellectually honest and get to the heart of what this debate ought to be about. There is a worldview that says that the remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination, that if you're Black or brown, you have to have a particular point of view. That's from Ibram Kendi. That's from Ayanna Pressley, the people I quoted in my speech yesterday.
But can you have an intellectually honest conversation when you accuse her of being a grand wizard of the KKK? Can you have that intellectually honest discussion with that kind of rhetoric?
Yes, I can, Dana, because the point I'm highlighting is that even the people who, in good spirit, we all agree that the KKK was an awful organization that is a toxic stain in our national history. So given that we can start from that point of agreement, now that allows us to say, well, who actually sounds more like that organization today? The people who are calling for more racial discrimination on the basis of skin color. So yes, I think that is an intellectually useful starting point for a provocative discussion that we need to have in this country.
The whole point is the KKK wasn't just about rhetoric.
We have to speak openly.
They lynched people, they murdered people, they raped people, they burned their homes.
And that was wrong.
Simply
that was obviously wrong.
Wrong. Okay, so again,
that is obviously a wrong thing.
If you want to have an intellectual discussion, do you think that maybe comparing her to the Grand Wizard and
let's stop this shit. Welcome to the Nick and CJ show.
This is an argument between two clowns who I cannot pick on.
You were thinking the same thing, because I was like, it was excruciating hearing a person who has no understanding of any sort of ethnic history, Black history at all. And she's trying to argue against it. It's just a liberal sort of surface level understanding. And she's trying to be the person to argue this, and it's shallow, and it's
this is an example how they are given a script and they are not allowed to critically think, or maybe they hire people who can't critically think. And I say this all the time, I'm very frustrated with liberal culture, and that's why I go directly at them, because they actually do a lot of harm towards our cause of racial justice. When you have performances like these that make everyone roll their eyes. For one, why is she so triggered? Why is she so upset? Think about what Vivek said. I saw this in the news. I saw the headline and everything. I didn't cover it, but I think this now is a good time to talk about it. Where Vivek compared, was it Jayapal or
Ayanna Pressley? I know she's in it.
Presley.
I don't know if who else is in it. I know Ayanna Pressley's in it though.
So one of the squad NPCs, they're all the same. Everyone forgot.
Insert name here. Insert name here.
Same fucking thing. Same fucking thing. So one of the squad NPCs said, we don't need another brown voice in the race that is not down for the struggle. And liberals like, what, that Dana Bash, right? These people are like fucking blurs to me. That's Dana Bash, right?
Yeah.
they are like,
propaganda's here.
They're like, yes, Queen, you guys are the voice for brown people.
Oh my
God. That's why I'm on a completely different wavelength on this story than liberals are, because I told you I completely reject liberal culture and their point of view, right? So they are mad at Vivek for criticizing the squad for saying that he shouldn't have a voice because they disagree with him. They are not in the right here, fam. You understand that? That's why I'm saying you got two clowns. I'll root against both of them because Vivek's a clown too. But how do you manage? How do you manage to take a clown like Vivek? I'll pass it right to you, CJ. But how do you manage to take a clown like Vivek and make him seem sympathetic in any scenario? This is what you're going after Vivek for? Because think about what they're saying, CJ. And this is why I'm taking this point of view on this story, which is completely different than I've seen a lot of people. I've seen everyone like, yeah, Vivek, how dare you compare it to the KKK? Vivek is repeating white supremacist talking points. How dare he? I'm like, nigga, she said that if you're brown, you should not speak unless you're down for the brown cause. Now, let's translate what that means. So she's saying if you're a brown skin, if you're black, if you're Indian, shut the fuck up unless you vote Democrat. Unless you're a Democrat, your voice
that's what she means
nothing.
Down for the cause.
Yeah, if you want to play the cause. Because I feel like I watched the discourse around the story, and I feel like everyone fucking missed it. Everyone pretend that Vivek is the bad guy here. No.
I have the receipts for this story. We're gonna do the full story, so I have the receipts. I'll bring it up.
I am not saying
in a second. This is just something I wasn't aware of. See, I had a completely. It's not different. It's different because I had a different understanding.
Great. I want to hear your perspective.
It's like because I was like not necessarily agreeing. I had the point of view that both of these motherfuckers is not doing nothing for the cause, and I was thinking of the cause as a real revolution of liberation.
Yes, so, we
like what we're doing. Yeah, so I was like, Ayana, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Yeah. You're another brown face that's not doing it. So that's I was calling out both of them, saying like, no, but you're not. But this is interesting. You add this different layer that I didn't even think of. So go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, because if you look at her quote, she said the last thing we need is another brown face who's not in the struggle. So essentially, you're not allowed to speak unless you agree with her. Which once again, if that came from Malcolm X, that came from Mark Kimberly, Gerald Ford, and people that follow the Black revolutionary spirit, the brown revolutionary spirit in some cases, you'd be like, yeah, that's actually a base quote. If you're not down for the revolution, shut the fuck up. But when you look at her point of view, you're like, how fucking dare you? Because what she's saying is that we don't need brown and black people who are not Democrats. And that's why RBN gets so much heat.
Down with that,
That's why RBN gets so much heat. They can't stand the fact that you got young black people telling people to leave the Democratic Party, CJ. So that's how I interpret it. I think we interpret it similar ways, but I see this as two clowns. I can't root from either one of them. But the overall response, I don't know if you saw the same thing. I seen like we kind of we a little bit late on the story. I saw a lot of other people cover it. I seen some commentary on this as well, and like everyone's like attacking Vivek. And I'm not saying his position is great, but he is definitely not in the wrong in this situation. And if you look at the clip. If you see the clip again,
I can play the clip. Yeah, you will see that the one who posted it.
Yeah, you will see that Vivek is literally like, yeah, I said that, but here, let me explain my point. And the point he's making is, which is I think is kind of a extreme example, right? The comparison used, but he's saying like, you saying that people who don't agree with you, they're black and brown, you telling them to shut the fuck up. So Vivek actually had a good point there, where he's like, how dare you guys say that because I'm brown, I can't talk about politics, which is not our position. We called him out for being wrong, but Pramila Jayapal or Presley, whatever, they said that he shouldn't run. He shouldn't be a voice at all. And that goes to the Uncle Tom bullshit rhetoric that liberals adopted in this new age, because they used to call people Uncle Toms. Now they just call you Candace Owens. You know what I mean? So they substituted Candace Owens.
Yeah,
they realized that Uncle Tom was offensive, so they're like, all right, we can't call people Uncle Tom no more. So we're gonna say, oh, you're acting like Candace Owens. And remember, I ratioed this liberal to death because he's like, oh, look at Nick, the Candace Owens. No, sorry. This person called Ice Cube a Candace Owens. And I'm like, you can disagree with Ice Cube on politics all you want, but Ice Cube politics is completely different than Candace Owens. Whether you agree with Ice Cube or not. So they replaced Candace Owens with Uncle Tom, essentially. So what Presley is saying is that Vivek is part of that, is like the Indian Uncle Tom, and because he is, he shouldn't be in political discourse. Only people who are Democrats should be. But anyway, let's continue. I'll pass to you, CJ. I know you got a lot to say.
Yeah, but I have another, I mean, just like we both do, we have agreement, and then I have an extra layer to add to this. Because the role that Vivek is happily playing is the role that Justice Thomas plays.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a role of where they want a person, a non-white person, to be saying the things that white people want to hear about white struggle. In this instance, the white struggle. I guess they're having a struggle of racism, Nick. I guess white people are having a struggle of racism. That's like Candace Owens. Yeah, it's like so. Like I don't know Candace Owens. I don't even know what she talks about. So educate me. What does she say on this?
Point. I'll pass it to you, CJ. But the quick point is to people like Candace Owens and Vivek, they are minorities that tell white conservatives what they want to hear, and they think that, oh, we got one of the good ones, because Candace Owens, her whole thing is telling people that white supremacy is not real. White supremacy is not a real thing. Black people can rise up and overcome all that. But what she leave out, and what her audience do not know, is that Candace Owens sued successfully for discrimination in education before. She literally, and she had Al Sharpton, the NAACP, back Candace Owens for a racial discrimination suit. This is when she was like 18, 19 years old, something like that. Stabby actually did a great report on this a while ago. Candace sued some institution for racial bias and won. Like, she won a ton of money out of that. So then she turns around and says, oh, no racism, no white supremacy anymore. It's like the only people who believe there are these white people that just need a Negro, that need an Indian to say something that make them feel better about this country. But go ahead, CJ. I'll let you finish.
That is literally, Nick, if you eliminated that, you know how many more white people, like their day just would not be the same, because they need to have the feeling that they're not race. They need to have that sort of framing. Now they need to,
and not only they're not racist,
explain away why they're up here and so many people of brown shading is down here. They need to explain away. Well, it's not that. It's because I'm smart. It's not that. But go ahead, Nick.
It's not only they are upset at the black Marxist leftist criticism. The reason why MLK is hated, the reason why Dr. Cornel West is being hated by liberals in the establishment. Because not only are they want to deflect from their racism, they don't want to believe that their daddy and their grandparents would benefit from racism. And they generally believe that European culture and their society is awakened and much more advanced and civilized than other societies. So then when we, the black Marxists, show up, when our Latino brothers and sisters, our Palestinian brothers and sisters, our indigenous brothers and sisters, our white indigenous brothers and sisters, explain how this system was built on violence and is not as sophisticated as you guys think it is, and your daddy, your grandparents, your great-grandparents benefited from racism. People do not want to accept that. My daddy benefited from racism? No way. My great-granddaddy benefited from racism? No way. So not only just them, it's their whole clan, fam. They're protecting their clan. They're protecting their culture. They just don't want to admit it, even though we come with the receipts. You got genocides in your name, wealth that you guys have stolen, that you guys benefited from, right? Anyway, CJ, I'll pass to you. I didn't want to take this over.
No, those are all great points. Let's get her reaction. It says, the job of Republican candidates of color is to go out to white Republicans and say they are not racist. And the real racists are the, she's right up until this point. It's the same critique we have up until this point here, because this is what we're saying. And the real racists are the anti-racist Americans who are challenging them. So Vivek is doing his job.
CJ.
He's feeding their denial like a servant. Go ahead, Nick.
Oh my God, that's infuriating. Listen, fam.
There's a lot. It's a mouthful. That's why I wanted to get it out.
So I'll let the video play first. I let the video play first. I gotta take on this because they're guilty of the same thing. So they are upset at Vivek for whitewashing Republican racism as you endure Jim Crow Joe. You guys see why I hate both of these people in this scenario, and that's why I got to take. I'm like, both of you guys suck in this scenario because both of you guys are doing something that your accurate criticism lays out. Your criticism of Vivek is spot on, but these squad sycophants don't realize that this criticism applies to them now. Shilling for Jim Crow Joe, the Nord Stream bomber, the guy who funded neo-Nazis in Ukraine, the guy who's trying to privatize water. We'll cover that here soon. The guy who's funding ICE more. The guy who's funding ICE more than Trump, $6 billion more, is somehow the racial justice candidate. But Trump, who funded ICE less, deported less people than Trump, funded the cops less than Trump, somehow you cover for white supremacy if you support him? That's why CJ, I say in this next year, in this next election year, and boy, I'm gonna piss a lot of people off. I am treating Joe Biden supporters the same way they would treat us if we absurdly came out as Trump supporters. You know what I mean? That's why I have to take that. I do. But sorry, CJ.
Two things I want to say. The thing about the black upper middle class, the black elites, the black wannabe capitalists, whatever you want to say, this upper middle class blacks, everybody you see on this screen right here, there's two things to know about them. This is why they're effective agents there's one reason why they're effective agents of the white power structure is because they are able to articulate correctly in several instances things about poverty and racism because they may have harkened back to an historical memory decades ago, and both of these people are that. So when I say their ability to recognize that candidates of color who are mouthing sort of you guys America's not racist, they're here for a reason, so they identify it just like we do. Nick, it's the correct identification, but there's a dual dynamic here. They're able to do that, but at the same time, if they're able to do that, Nick, they have to understand that they're being hypocrites because you're supporting Joe Biden. There's no way for you to be able to analyze this and not apply that same analytical sort of theory to Joe Biden, to Democrats. There's no way to do that unless you do that intentionally. That's why I say they know. They know, Nick. There's no way they don't know that they're being sellouts. It's just that they have changed it from being sellouts to being, in order to gain a little, you have to sell out a little. That's what they've grown to accept. So let's play the video so we can hear her reaction. It's less than a minute and a half, so less than 90 seconds.
Yeah.
Let's hear what she says. Here, let me read.
This is gonna be brutal. Look at this.
Well, you see what it says. So this is obviously.
I'm looking at the screen. I'm looking at the people who are listening to. Look at these people on the. And I've seen the guy on the right. The guy on the right, I've seen a few times on MSNBC. He's the guy. He's here to sound like he's traditionally woke. And when I say woke, I mean like in the traditional black positive sense. They bring him on to play that role, but then he repeat liberal bullshit. Like this guy is so annoying. The guy on the right. But anyway, sorry. Let's play. It's gonna be.
I hate that person in that lane. I hate that person that basically talking the vernacular of the black diaspora, the African diaspora. Yep. They talk in that language. They're able to bring up historical, popular historical events to give them street cred. and then they go ahead and talk about some liberal shit. I hate that lane. That's like one of the worst of the sellouts, where you are real. That's like Max Frost, where you pretending to be down with Palestinians and you selling motherfuckers out. Like you're marching with them. You like in the trenches and you do it. That's the sellout of the top sellout.
I haven't seen this clip, but just watch. I seen this guy. I know his face. I'm like, he didn't know me to the point where I'm like, oh, that's that motherfucker. But anyway, let's watch.
He went further, continuing to talk about you on Meet the Press, and essentially blamed. He says this. He says he thinks that creating race-based quota systems, which I think he thinks affirmative action is, which it isn't, that deny people access to goods or services based on the color of their skin, that's not the right answer to stop discrimination on the basis of race. As John Roberts said, is to stop discriminating on the basis of race. And then he says that I'm genuinely worried that we're seeing a new wave of anti-Black and anti-Hispanic racism as a consequence of these so-called anti-racist movements. He's basically saying anti-racism is the reason for racist incidents. And he named you. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's a very old white supremacist talking point. White supremacists have been saying for decades that.
Now, both sides do this. Now, he said more than that. But you see how they dumb down to make. I mean, I'm saying this. I think his argument is pretty bad, but to make his argument seems unintelligent. Like even the way that they're explaining it it's like what the ruling class does about our critiques of Joe Biden. Oh, they think he's too old. It's more than that, motherfucker. But that's what you want to use as sort of the layer. Yeah. But the layer. But you get the point. I don't want to belabor the point. But let's let the clip finish. Another 45 seconds.
Anti-racist is code for anti-white, and what's also ironic is the only reason why we're even talking about him, the only reason why he even has political standing is because he has a brown skin and he's attacking Black people. And that's really his job. It's the job of Republican candidates of color to go out to white Republicans and say they are not racist, and the real racists are the people who are challenging them. And so he's doing his job. He's feeding their denial, like a servant.
You're talking to Joy-Ann Reid, sir.
What are you talking about?
You know who you're talking to? Like Jim Crow Joe, and I am willing to have this conversation with anybody as a victim of his policies, as a victim of his bankruptcy bill, for example. No one has been the most anti-Black politician in the modern era, and define that however you will. I would say that maybe since the 70s or 80s, I define that as the modern era. Let's say my lifetime, the early 90s. There have been no politician in my lifetime that has passed more anti-Black legislation and killed more Black people overseas than Jim Crow Joe. And liberals believe that Donald Trump had hurt Black people more than Joe Biden. Like, it's absurd to believe that. It's absurd to believe anyone did. The only person I would put up against Joe Biden is people like John McCain. And now liberals love those people. Isn't that funny? Anyway, go ahead, CJ.
John McCain. So I'm not playing this video, but I did want to close this segment by showing. Now, it's like what is his name? Andrew Gillum said in a debate against Ron DeSantis. I'm not calling you a racist, Ron DeSantis, but the racists believe you're a racist, Ron DeSantis. So if you don't know the Libertarian Party, I think New Hampshire, these are some of the most racist, openly racist people, and they've been called out many times by other libertarian parties too. Okay, so this is what I'm saying. If this racist organization is saying props to you, I'm just saying, Vivek. I'm just saying. Let me read what it says. Vivek Ramaswamy calls out Ayanna, part of Ayanna Pressley, part of the modern KKK, which she is, then doubles down, which Chris Cuomo calls out for being racist. It's great to see candidates joining LPNHE in tearing down these absurd double standards. I just wanted to show that.
So I'm glad you made the point, because this is what I'm going to bring up later about libertarians speaking out against, what's that, the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. There are a lot of people that believe they're feds. The same, the same way.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Yeah,
the same way that they want to sheep herd Green Party voters to the Democratic Party, the establishment right want libertarians to vote for Republicans, so they got a bunch of feds to make
it seem racist. Yeah.
Now I don't know if that's true or not. I know people who are more in tune to the libertarian movement, like my friend Pasta, for example. Misty, she has a lot of libertarian friends, and I'll stay in loop with them. A lot of these people think they are pretty damn sure those people are feds. But I will say that if they're not surprising. But I think they are. Like when you see their account and what they tweet, they don't even tweet like inherently libertarian shit. It's just all culture war nonsense.
They could,
you know what I mean?
They could be
culture war nonsense. Like, and that's what kind of turns class conscious socialists and Marxists like ourselves from working with libertarians, because there is a wing of libertarians that focus way too much on the class war, which completely contradicts your politics, what you claim your politics to be. And so then this New Hampshire, and that's always been our criticism of libertarians, right, CJ? The criticism of the Marxist left, socialists and communists generally, was libertarians are too caught up in the culture war, and they are obviously class enemies, but they are too unserious to be reliable anti-war people. So then you got the New Hampshire Libertarian Party comes out of nowhere that tried their absolute best to prove that theory correct. So
yeah, it seems like a logical theory to say that this could be some sort of front, because I do not see 99% of other libertarian accounts. I do not see this sort of way that they talk about everything. It's like they're not. When are you just talking about war? Like, you always talking about a lot of culture stuff. Go ahead.
And that's the only libertarian account I've seen repeatedly propped up by Republicans. You know what I mean? Like, so like Republican propagandists and culture warriors often will quote tweet, and that Twitter account get a ton of impressions, a ton of retweets and likes. And that's the establishment, Trump, MAGA, Republicans. And I've never seen Republicans prop up a libertarian account like that. You know what I mean? So that's why I just see nothing but evidence. I don't have no solid proof that they're feds, but we use common sense. We use critical thinking. There's a lot of red flags. There's a lot of fucking red flags, and a lot of libertarians agree with us. A lot of libertarians, they're the ones I heard this from.